Hello, CompuMove friends. Welcome to another CompuMove instructional video. What we have for you today is a look at CompuMove's commissioning system. First, we'll have a look at how to add a line item based commission to a job record. Next, we'll learn how to create and save a commission schedule for a particular job type. And finally, we'll have a look at how to link specific schedules to a commission account by job type. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started. Our first step in learning about commissions is to do an interstate hauling commission. In this case, I've got a job ready to go where we've done transportation and the various associated charges. So you can see in this example, here's discounted line haul, $6,107. And in this case, we're being an agent for a van line. So they're taking a 2% retention. So that means that we're taking 98% for distribution purposes. And that results in this figure, $59.85. Then our revenue as the agent who's getting paid for this hauling is 60%. And so then that results in the $3,591 figure. So line haul passes through a 2% retention, which becomes what we refer to as the basis for distribution, and then it passes through a 60% split, which results in our company revenue. Now, if you're not an agent for a van line, you might think these calculations are crazy, but in fact, they're completely common in the van line relationship, where drivers are working as contractors for agencies of the van lines. And so that's the example we'll be pursuing here. Taking that a bit further, there's also the fuel surcharge, which we're getting 100% of, origin destination service charges, and in this example we're using full packing, meaning packing by the hundredweight, which we're getting 85% of. So we're going to work with the distributed line haul figure, the fuel surcharge, the origin destination service charges, and the packing distribution when we go to do our commission. So let's press on and look how that would happen. I'm going to leave the charge screen and go to the commission screen and press add. And up comes a list of commission accounts. Creating these commission accounts is a subject of another video, so we won't be discussing that here. In this case, I've got the Henry Hauler commission account available to me, and I'm going to click on Start Commission. Now, there already are commission schedules in place, but we're going to cover that a bit later in this video. So I'm going to say No Schedule so that I can go ahead and do this commission completely manually. If you look at the individual line items, you can see that these values are being brought over from the charges screen. And there's a couple different layers of how that happens, and so let's explore that now. First, let's start with the hauling commission. If I go to the Basis 1 column and click, I'll get a pull-down box. And you can see that we've got some different values depending on where we're taking our commission distribution basis from. You can see that there's the figure for the line haul before the retention and before the split, and you can see that there's a place where the company revenue is used as the basis for commission. So that was after the 2% van line retention and the 60% hauling distribution. So we're going to go ahead and work with that. And then I'm going to say that I'm paying my independent contractor driver 75% of that commission. So let's review what's happening here. We started out with line haul. There was a 2% retention. That resulted in this figure. We got paid 60% by the van line. That resulted in the $35.91. And then on the commission screen, we're taking the $35.91 and paying 75%, and that's what's getting paid to the driver. There's actually the possibility to do a second share and cut it still further, but we'll leave that alone for the moment and just press on. Now, it's very common in the case of a fuel surcharge that 100% goes to the driver, so we'll just enter that there. And then for service charge, origin, and destination, we're going to say 95% of that is going to the driver. And then finally, for the full pack, we'll give 80% of that to the driver. It's actually possible to build schedules that preserve these values so they can be applied automatically. That's what a commission schedule is all about. But you always have the opportunity, even if there's a commission schedule in play, to go into the individual line items, to go to the basis column, choose an alternate basis, enter a different share, and save it. That will only affect the shipment that you're working on. It will not affect the setup of the commission schedules. Finally, once we've done the complete distribution, then the final figures are going to flow into the posted distribution column for individual expense accounts, flowing into individual general ledger codes, which can be specific to the type of work, for instance, transportation versus packing. And we'll look at how those are assigned when we do a commission schedule. But ultimately, we get a commission total, and then that's going to become a payable in the financial system to our driver to ultimately be included in a settlement for him. So our next step is to learn how to build and save a commission schedule. In order to do that, I'm going to move this job record over so we can look at it as we go. And then I'm going to go into Setup, and I'm going to go into Commission Accounts. The creation of commission accounts is a subject of another video, but what we're interested in here is this button down toward the bottom that says Schedule Setup. And then ultimately we'll be doing a schedule link to link together the schedule that we are going to create to a specific commission account. So we'll click on the Schedule Setup button, and that will bring up the Commission Schedule Editor. I'll go ahead and close the Commission Account Setup screen, and then let's set about recreating this commission schedule that's being used on this particular job. I'm going to click on New Schedule, and I'm going to pick the job type that says Van Line 400N and click on New Schedule. And I'll go ahead and give this one a name. I'm going to call it Carrier Hauling, and I'm going to go to the individual line items. So let's start with the hauling commission. I go to the type option and I pull down that list. And as you can see, there's a variety of options here. Let's talk about them. The first is to pay off the original line item before retention. The second is to pay off of my company share after the retention and after the company split. The next two items are to pay off of the total for the whole shipment. That might be appropriate for a salesperson, where you're not paying for individual line items. Next up is the opportunity to pay by the hundredweight, then by the job hours or miles, then by man hours, and then by the full tariff charge, meaning if there's a line item that's discounted, like interstate hauling might be, it's actually possible to pay off the 100% figure. Then the other options become a little more complicated, where we can make a relationship between individual line item types and then take a share off of them. We can also pay with a completely manual line item, or by the hundredweight, or manually by the hour, or using retentions of our own. So if, for example, I was going to choose the retention option, I could go into commission defaults and I could put retention percentages of ours, not the carrier retention, but as though I'm functioning as a van line and am taking a retention. And if I do that, then I enter the value of the retention number. So for example, if I was taking a 5% retention and I wanted to use it for the basis of my formula, I could go ahead and put a 95 in there and then save it, and then pick the line item that says bill charge after retention, and then do option 1. I do option 1 because I'm in the box for retention number 1. That's retention number 1. That's where that's coming from. And then when it does the calculation, it'll take an additional 5% off the top before it pays out. So there are, of course, other examples, but those are the most common ones. But let's go back to the example that we're pursuing right now. I'm going to take that option out and I'm going to go back to C2. Generally speaking, C2, commission option 2, is the most common one. That's where we're paying off of a share of our share. But these other ones obviously can come in play, can be significant. So I'm going to go ahead and say 75% because that's what I've got in the job example in front of me. And then I'm going to go to the fuel surcharge and the origin destination service charge, and we're going to pay those off of the original charge item, not off of our share. So fuel surcharge is paid at 100%. That's very common. And then origin destination service charges, we're going to pay 95% of out to the driver. I think I need to change those because if I go to the charge example, you can see that I got paid 95%. So what I want to do is I want to change that to the C2 option, so I'm paying 95% of my 95%, so I make a little bit on that. So then the last one down is the full pack. Let's look and see what we did. We got paid 85% of the full pack, so let's replicate that here. I'm going to go to full pack, I'm going to go C2, and then I'm going to say that we're going to pay 95. So because I'm choosing C2, it's going to be the percentage of the company charge. If I was choosing option C1, it would be paying off of this column. Because I'm choosing option C2 here, it's paying off of this column, the company share. So you can see that the fuel surcharge is going to be paying off of this value here. Now there's 100% flowing, so it really actually comes out the same, but I do have the option to control that. Whereas the origin destination service charges set on C2 are going to be paying off of this value. So in this case, I've got 95 selected. I'm already getting 95, so it's 95% of 95%. In the case of the packing line item, we're getting paid 85%. So that's the value that's going to be the basis under option C2. And so we're going to be paying out 95% of 85%. Again, if you're an agent for a van line, this is business as usual for you. If you're not, you're probably wondering what happens here. And it's just all wrapped up in the relationship between the carriers and the agents and their independent contractors and how the money gets divvied up. The last thing that comes into play is how the general ledger codes are assigned. So if I go to the commission screen, you can see that these individual commission accounts or general ledger accounts are all 7,600, and that's because that's the default expense account for Henry the hauler. If I go into setup and I go into commission accounts and I pick Henry the hauler, his default general ledger distribution account is a sub-hauler's interstate account. So that's why when we look at the commission screen and we've added a new commission, they're all coming in with that code. However, I might want to do different line item codes for different charges. For instance, I might have a different code set up for the packing or a different code set up for the fuel surcharge. In that case, I can go into this last column and I can pull that down and I can choose from the accounts and I could pick something else and apply it, and then that would get applied there. In this case, I'm not going to do that. I'll leave it blank, but that is an option, potentially might be of value to you. So now we have created a commission schedule that matches the commission distribution that we did on this job. So the next and final step is going to be to link it to Henry the hauler's commission account and observe how it comes up when we go to start a commission. But before we actually do that, if you've been paying attention, you realize that I put the wrong share distribution. Here we are on the commission screen and I put 95 here. That's not right, so let's fix it. I'm going to click in here. I'm going to make that 80. I'll click save again. And so now I'm correctly replicating what's going on in the commission schedule, or really the manual commission that I did. And of course, it's always important to have a good look because these schedules are so dependent upon the formula calculating, making your driver happy so that you match your contractual obligations with him, and so everybody gets paid what they're supposed to. Now, it's very much worth noting that if I had left the wrong value there and had paid Henry at 95% and then caught it later and went back and changed it, I can absolutely do that. But it's only going to change that distribution on that specific commission. If I come back to the schedule setup and change it, it will change it for all future commissions, but it won't recalculate any commissions that are already in the pipeline. And if I go back and edit a commission that's already been created, it won't pick up the change from the schedule. It'll only do it to that one specific job. So the final step here is to build the association between the commission schedules for a given job type and the individual contractor account or commission account that we're going to be paying. If you look at our example here, we've actually got 4 different schedules all associated with the same job type. So the way that the linkage occurs actually happens on 2 levels, and let's explore that. If you do nothing in terms of associating a commission account with schedules, you'll get every option that matches the job type. So let's go back to this commission. I'm going to delete this commission item. This has not been saved. Once it's saved and these values have been posted, this button that says delete commission converts to 0 commission, because a record, once it's been entered into the system, and of course is journalized to the general ledger, can't be deleted outright. But in this case, I have not yet saved it with that commission on there, so that button says delete commission, so I'm going to take advantage of that. I'll click on delete commission. Now I'm going to say add commission, and I'm going to pick Henry Haller, and I'm going to say start commission. Now when I do that, I get 4 different choices, 5 really counting the no schedule choice. I get these 4 choices here, and the reason I'm getting them is because those are the 4 schedules that are associated with this job type. So if I'm happy with that, there's nothing else I need to do. Just pick the one I want and move along, or even say no schedule or really no schedule here, depending on what's appropriate, whether I want to remove a previously applied schedule or just want to decide that off the bat. But it's also possible that I want to throttle that down, that I want to limit the number of choices that are available to the operator. And I don't want every commission schedule to be available for every worker on this job type. And so that's where the association takes place. So let's click on No Schedule, and then let's go ahead and close out the commission schedule editor, and then go back to the setup and go to commission accounts and put myself on Henry the Hauler, and then click on this button down here that says Schedules Link. And that's where I can make the association. So I click on that. I'm on Henry the Hauler. I'm going to go to van line 400N, and I'm going to pick 2 of the 4 possible schedules. Suppose I'm going to pick carrier hauling, and then maybe there's a van line driver with a 10% retention. That's a completely alternate schedule, which has got its own complications, but we won't talk about it any further other than just to say it's another schedule we could choose from. So now, for Henry Haller, for that job type, I now have 2 possible schedules. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And once I've done that, then I can close it. I can close that out. Now if I delete this commission and add again and choose Henry Haller, then I'm going to get only those options that I selected in the linkage. So again, if you make no association between the commission account and the schedules, you'll get all of them. If you make that association, you can throttle it down, you can restrict it, so your operator can't inadvertently choose one of the schedules that you don't want them to have. So let's go ahead and pick that carrier hauling, schedule apply at 100%, and then just like that, without having to mess with the individual details and their options, It throws down the commission, it drives all the calculation, and we wind up at the same commission value, the $49.88.50 that we got before. The other thing we might want to do in this job is print a copy of that commission statement. So I'm going to go to print and I'm going to say commission full statement and I'll do display, and then I get simple text output with that breakout in it. There's actually a couple different options. You can explore them. We can also generate this as a PDF. We can save it to the job. We can email it straight to the driver out of the job, because it'll know the driver's email address because he's on this job, and we can generate it as a PDF to make it that much easier. Variety of options there. So then the final thing to look at is what happens if you've got multiple drivers who share the same schedules. So if I go again to setup and I go to commission accounts and I go Henry Haller, you can see if I go into schedule link, I've got those two commissions scheduled. Suppose I've got a fairly elaborate commission schedule for different job types and I've got 10 drivers who all share the same schedule. That could get tedious as I'm entering that, and that's what these buttons are for. Copy and paste on the settlement schedule. So if Dave the driver is going to get paid the same way that Henry's going to get paid, I sit on Henry, I click on copy, it puts in Henry's commission account number, then I click on Dave, and then I click on paste. So now if I go to the schedule links for Dave, I've got exactly the same thing that I had for Henry. So once I've done the copy and paste, I can then set about modifying the other person's commission schedule to be somewhat different. They're not linked forever. It's just a labor-saving function. So that's enough for now, a pretty comprehensive look at how you do commissions, how you build commission schedules, how you apply them, how you manage them. If you've got any questions about any of this, please reach out to our office. We're more than happy to help. And thanks for watching.